Passionate, compassionate, and caring, Sydney Glenn is a champion for mental health in our community. As the care coordinator for eating disorder recovery specialist, Sydney brings a wealth of knowledge about eating disorders and their relation to mental health. In this conversation that we had, the very first of many Green Couch Chats with Miss Miami. Mariluz Cook, Miss Miami here, now joined by Sydney Glenn, care coordinator and a personal good friend of mine. So Sydney, first off, how did you get into the field that you're currently in?
So I started working with eating disorders about a little over a year ago. And it wasn't something that I was originally intending in going into. And it was a job that kind of fell into my lap through a mutual friend that had recommended me. And I was like, well, let's just give it a try because mental health is always something that I'm passionate about. And I started going to school for mental health. So it was more of just like fate that I got into eating disorders. And so far, I've really enjoyed working with this population and being able to help them.
I love that. I love that you mentioned fate and that this is something that you're passionate about, that you're able to combine your passion for mental health with your career and do such special work. Now, eating disorders, that's your specialty. So what are the signs that we can look for someone who might be struggling with an eating disorder?
Yeah, so it's going to look different based on different eating disorders, obviously. But some that you may want to look out if you're going out to eat with your friends or you're at school. I know school's not really in right now with COVID and everything, but you're still meeting up with your friends. If your friend isn't maybe eating their meal or saying, oh, I'm not really hungry, and that's kind of seems like a common theme, or they're always wearing like larger clothes to hide the appearance of their body, or taking very small bites, cutting up their food into smaller pieces that you would think would be a little like too small. Those are just a few signs. And then just more like anxiety around food, or maybe when ordering a meal, not always completing their meal or avoiding certain types of food. So for some people, maybe French fries is a scary food for them, or pizza. So kind of not partaking in those types of scarier foods for them.
That's really helpful. Thank you, Sydney. Now, you talk about mental health. That's one of your passions. How do mental health and eating disorders go hand in hand? What are some of the mental health ramifications that can come along with an eating disorder?
Yeah, so a lot of times eating disorders also have co-occurring disorders such as anxiety, depression, OCD, bipolar. So it's not always the eating disorder that they're struggling with. They could also be struggling with a handful of other types of mental health disorders, which makes battling the eating disorder even more difficult because they have all these other things that they're trying to get help with as well.
Now, Sydney, are eating disorders always related to body image?
Not all the time. They can be for certain people, and they can be concerned about their body image or their body weight. But for other people, it could be a control aspect where they grew up in a house where rules were really rigid and strict. So they tend to control their eating disorder because that's the only thing in their life that they feel as though they have control over. And then for other people, it could stem from past trauma. So they may find comfort in their food or have a way of like coping with food. So it really varies person to person and just their life experiences that they've gone through.
Okay, so that's really helpful to know. That's not something that I knew prior to this conversation, so thank you for that. Now, Sydney, what do you love most about the work that you do?
I love when I get to see clients who maybe originally don't believe in themselves and really just don't think that there's any hope for them, and I get to see them come out on the other side of that. It's just inspiring to see that they're struggling with something that they don't see the hope in themselves, but our team, we can see that, and we're able to walk them through those steps, and then they come out on the other side and they're just like a brand new person at the end of it. So that's like one of the best parts of working in this field.
That's really special, and I'm sure so fulfilling. Now, Sydney, we'll end on this last question. If there was one piece of mental health advice that you could give to the world, what would it be?
I know it's talked about so much and it's going to sound very cliche, but self-care is so important. I think a lot of the times we just throw that term around and don't really dive into what that means. And it could be asking for help, whether it be from a friend or going to therapy. Therapy is cool. Nobody is going to judge you for going to therapy. And I think your version of self-care might look different from mine, where Miss Miami's version of self-care may be baking cookies or um, mine might be going on a long drive and listening to music or talking with friends or having a night in or saying no to plans. So I think just finding whatever little piece makes you happy and being able to implement that into your routine.
That is so good, Sydney. And I love what you said about saying no to plans. Sometimes that's something that we need to do. Sometimes we need, like, there's a lot of good things that are going to come our way. And it's good to say no sometimes and take those nights for ourselves and to bake cookies. I did that last night. That was my self care. You know me so well. So, Sydney, thank you so much for your
Yeah.
insight and your expertise. I so appreciate the conversation with you today.
Thank you. I appreciated talking with you and that you're using your platform to reach so many people that may be struggling.